we want to take a look at the big picture now when it comes to policy out of Washington and bring in Josh Wingrove. He is our senior White House correspondent, and he joins us now from the White House. And Josh, there's any number of directions we can go in here, particularly when it comes to the latest on the Jeffrey Epstein drama and the story there. But I want to start on tariffs, and specifically how the U.S. government is now carving out some tariff exclusions because they need to address this affordability crisis that became very acute after the election results came out. Josh, what are you seeing?
Yeah, we're told the president will sign an order today eliminating tariffs or reducing them at least. It's a little unclear on food products in particular that the U.S. either does not make at all or doesn't make enough of. Beef, coffee, bananas, tomatoes are among that list, we're told. My colleague Adriana and I just have a story on the terminal shortly about this. Speaking of all the things we could talk about today, forgive me if you hear a lot of sound behind me. The president is currently blaring a playlist on the Rose Garden, and you could hear it all through the compound.
What's the song
you could probably hear it in
right
Virginia. That's a good question, but we just got off Phantom before this, so you know he's you know.
I know he takes a lot of pride in that playlist.
Yes, exactly. So this is obviously, look, the administration is going to say that this is always part of the plan. There have always been exclusions. Jamieson Greer, the U.S. Trade Representative, told us that earlier today here at the White House. It is also, of course, an acknowledgement that tariffs have an impact on the price of things, which Trump has downplayed throughout his tariff campaign. And so it is in some ways at least a tacit sort of retreat or withdrawal. What is, I think, important and clear, or will become clear, and we just don't know right now, is how many of these exclusions apply to countries that have deals and how many are just to countries that don't. And if it's don't, then that I think is more of a step back on the part of the administration. Whereas if they're just confining it to countries that have reached agreements, for instance, they announced 4 just last night, then that, you know, is maybe a bit more of a narrow action. So we just don't know the scope. We don't know what number of foods. We don't know whether the tariffs are simply being eliminated on them. You know, we just don't know what countries. A lot up in the air, but we're told as the president is signing it today, so we expect some details here pretty shortly.
Josh, keeping with this tariff theme, of course, we do know news came out that the U.S. and Switzerland did reach a preliminary trade agreement to lower tariffs on many Swiss goods, including watches, from 39% to 15%. That sounds like a big drop to me here. Talk to us about the developments here between the U.S. and Switzerland.
Yeah, and Liechtenstein, let's not leave them out of the party. Big deal with both of them. This has been in the works for quite some time. The Swiss were hit with a pretty high rate and argued that that was because of some weird distortions in the data and how trade is recorded, including flow of gold. And so they've been sort of clamoring to be treated the same as the EU. That's what this deal essentially, give or take, does. Treat them the same as the EU with a 15% rate. The flip side is the Swiss are agreeing to a $200 billion investment pledge over 5 years, 67 billion of it, or 1/3 in the next year here in the U.S. That follows models, you know, similar to what we saw, for instance, with the Japanese and Koreans. So they get a deal that they've been waiting for a long time. Trump gets to, you know, boast about these pledged increased Swiss investments, but that really that was sort of one of the sore thumb trade deals that came out with the early math on how Trump calculated his tariffs, and I think is a signal on how a lot of this is really sort of still evolving, really. But between that and the deals announced last night, including with Argentina, but also some other Central American and South American countries, they're sort of starting to check off a lot of the list, and it will raise you know, attention on the other countries, which is starting to be kind of a dwindling number for which Trump has not made a deal. India, for sure, is one of them. Canada and Mexico are sort of in a different bucket, but we're watching those as well. So he's trying to sort of, you know, knock these off, but the Swiss one is a big one.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned the countries that we don't have deals with, because I think about Canada and Mexico. They're our biggest trading partners, and we still haven't hammered out final details with them. Are there talks scheduled?
My Canadian family do not let me forget it.
Yeah,
I hear
I'm sure.
about it every weekend. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of uncertainty for Canada.
Yeah, I think with Canada and Mexico, they're in a different bucket because they have that USMCA carve-out. Trump doesn't like the word exclusion, but that's what it is. And so I think there's genuine conversation going on in both countries about how loud to complain, you know, because they have one of the lowest total average effective tariff rates in the world by merit of the fact that so much of the trade is simply not paying a tariff at all. So those two are in their own bucket, and we'll see where they go. Right now, there's really not a lot of momentum at all in either country for negotiations. This might just get rolled up in the USMCA conversation in the months and years to come. On the other countries, India, that has been a tough one to track. It was the first country that they announced trade progress with, and they just simply haven't gotten there. So I think it's anyone's guess where it'll go. The Swiss thing, I should give a shout out to our colleagues at Bloomberg in Switzerland. We scooped this story a few days ago that they were nearing the deal. We asked the president about it, and he dunked on me for asking all kinds of Swiss questions. But there was a reason, Mr. President. That's why we're here. They're on the cusp of a deal for it. He asked whether I was buying Rolexes, and I cannot afford a Rolex. I don't know about everyone else, but I wish you well.